Hi, I'm Robin from CookingMexicanRecipes.com, and today I'm making homemade flour tortillas. Now you can find this recipe on my website if you want the written version or you want to print it out. Today I'm going to walk you through it, and we're going to start with our ingredients. I've got 2 cups of white flour, I've got a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon and a half of baking powder, and we're going to have some water. Okay, so I'm going to start with my 2 cups of flour. I'm going to put it in this big bowl, and my salt, and my teaspoon and a half of baking powder. Now I need to, in another bowl, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup of warm water, and I'm going to use some vegetable oil. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil in with the water. You always want to make sure that your oil is fresh, and you can usually tell that by smelling it. Now before I add the water-oil mixture to the flour, I want to make sure that I've mixed up the salt and the baking powder that I've added to the flour. So I'm going to stir that up first. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the water-oil mixture about a tablespoon at a time. I'll start with a couple. And I'm going to mix it with a fork. And once that water gets mixed in, I'm going to add some more. And just keep doing that until all the water is mixed in. Homemade flour tortillas are wonderful compared to what you can buy in the store. So if you get a chance to try this, you really should, at least once. When I was growing up, when I was about 3 or 4 years old, my grandmother, I have memories of this, when she would make homemade flour tortillas, and she'd be standing by the stove, and she'd be mixing the dough, and then she'd make these little balls out of it, and then I can still remember her patting the tortillas in her hands back and forth like this, and then putting it on the cast iron pan to cook, and she'd give it to me with some butter, and man, it was heaven. It was really good. Now the dough is going to get quite sticky, and that's okay. We're expecting that. And then eventually we'll take care of that by kneading it with some flour. Okay, so now you can see I've got all the water and the oil mixture incorporated into the dough. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some flour on my wooden board here. Put a little dusting on the board, spread it out. Now the dough is a little sticky now, so I'm going to knead it, and by kneading it, I'm going to push with my heels out, and I notice my board is slipping. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, my board is slipping on me, so I'm going to put a towel down that's slightly damp. I'm going to place my cutting board on top of it. It should help keep it in place. Okay, so now I'm going to continue kneading my dough, which is taking the heels, pushing out on the dough, and then turning it and doing it again. So I'm just about done kneading the dough, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it in this bowl here, and I'm going to cover it. I've got a cloth here that I'm going to get damp, and I'm going to place it right on top of the dough, and we're going to let it rest for 20 minutes. So we'll be back in 20 minutes. Okay, so the dough has been resting for 20 minutes. I'm going to take the top off here, and what I'm going to do now is make little balls, little golf balls out of the dough. So I'm just going to pull them apart. I'm going to roll it a little bit in the flour, and then I'm going to place them on the plate. As you can see, about this size here. Roll it up a little bit. All right, so I made all my balls of dough here, and I only got 8 because I made them a little bit larger. So now I'm going to put the damp cloth back on top, and we're going to let these rest another 10 minutes. Okay, so 10 minutes have passed on our second rest period, and so now we're going to take our balls. I'm going to take one of them, and I'm going to roll it out and make a tortilla. So I'm going to start with maybe just flattening it out a little bit, and I've got some flour down here on my board. So I'm going to push it down, and I'm going to put some flour on my rolling pin. flour it up a little bit so it won't stick. And I'm going to roll it out. Now the tortilla is pretty elastic, so what you're going to find is as you're rolling it out, it's going to roll back, it's going to shrink back up. So we're just going to keep rolling it. Now when you roll it, you want to roll from the center of your dough out, and you want to lift your rolling pin up at the end of your stroke. Sort of like pie dough, same kind of thing. Now that I've got my tortilla rolled out nice and thin, I've got my comal heating up here. This is the best thing to use for tortillas. I love these things. So I've got this heated up over medium heat. It's pretty hot, so I'm going to lay it right on there and cook this. I got a new tortilla oven. I went to the Home and Garden show recently and I picked up another one. I love these things so much and I can't recommend them enough. They keep your tortillas hot. This will keep these tortillas in here hot for probably close to an hour. As this cooks, you can see it's starting to bubble a little bit, so that's a good sign. What we want to do is to have it brown just a little bit on the first side, then we'll turn it over. And I'm ready to flip the tortilla over. I'm just going to do it with my hands. Cook the second side. And we're going to cook the tortilla anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds on each side, just depending on how hot your pan is. So you're just looking for a little browning, and that should do it. Okay, so you can see here that this is browned up a little bit. So I'm going to take the tortilla off and I'm going to put it in my tortilla oven, where I have a couple other tortillas in there already. And this will keep our tortillas, if I can get that in there, hot. Nice and hot. So you've seen how fairly easy it is to make flour tortillas. I suggest you give it a try at least once. It is kind of fun. It's a great thing to do with your kids if you have a chance. So I talked about this before. This is a tortilla oven, and I'm going to pull one of these nice hot tortillas out. And I could make a burrito with these, or I could do what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put a little butter on here, and I'm going to take a taste, because these are really good. Nothing beats warm, buttery flour tortillas. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found this video helpful in making some flour tortillas at home. Be sure and stop by my recipe site at cookingmexicanrecipes.com on the web. And be sure and subscribe to my channel because I'll be making more videos in the near future. And remember, it's got to be hot to be good.